Your growth journey is your own science experiment. And you need to be the one making the observations and questioning things, building the hypothesis, doing the experiments, analyzing your results, and drawing your own conclusions. This is how we grow. This is how we get better. This is how we make new connections and learning and develop.
Hype or legit? Game-changing or garbage?
This is What's Hot and What's Not, where we put today's biggest self-help trends under the microscope.
All right, let's break this one down.
What's hot and what's not today?
Manifestation.
Ooh, I love this topic.
Yeah, it's a good one. It's an interesting one because it's, like most words, been absolutely bastardized. So
I would agree. I think, it was interesting. I was talking about this with Stephanie yesterday, and she said something that was really interesting to me. And she said, I think most people think that like you can just continue to wish for things and that's how you make it happen. And I think that's what makes manifestation not hot. Because any manifestation expert you talk to is going to tell you that you can't just wish or hope for something. You have to take intentional action to get yourself there, right?
Yep.
If you want to live in a mansion, you can't just play YouTube videos all day long of other people's mansions and expect to all of a sudden be owning a mansion.
No, I view manifestation as the back work, the brain work behind what you're preparing your body to acquire. So yes, I think that I want to live in a mansion. Yes, I think that living in a mansion would put me where I want to be in life, but it also allows me to see and feel and hear what it's like to be there, but understand the actions that it takes to acquire it. It gives you more of a framework.
Yeah.
I think it's literally just like holding onto a book without reading the actual book.
Yeah.
And then the actions are going through the pages.
Right.
So, yeah.
Yeah, you can't just hold the book and expect to have the knowledge that comes with it.
No, but I can be excited about it.
Yeah.
Which is what manifestation is. I'm excited about the knowledge that I'm going to learn from this. I'm excited about the applicable knowledge I'll have and how I can change my life based on the information in the book. But I don't have it yet.
Yeah.
So, yeah, you can watch YouTube videos and be excited. It gives you a frame of reference.
Well, and it helps you visualize for sure, right? We know visualization is a really powerful tool. A lot of professionals do it. But you can't just wish for something. You have to work for something. So I think that's the common misperception. I think manifestation is hot overall. Don't get me wrong. I love manifestation. I took a whole course on manifestation. And my biggest takeaway was it is a combination of visualizing the outcomes that you desire along with taking intentional action and looking intentionally at the progress that you're making towards that action. Instead of looking at what's not there, which comes from a place of scarcity, it's tapping into evidence of, hey, this is possible and I'm capable of achieving this too.
Yeah.
So one tactical example, like if you're trying to find love and let's say you're walking down the street and you see a happy couple holding hands, looking truly like they're in love. Instead of looking at them and saying, oh, it's not fair. Why do they get love and I don't? You look at that as a sign that, hey, love is all around me. It exists. It's within reach and I'm getting closer. This is the universe or God showing me that it's right in front of me. So I think if we can look at manifestation in that way and we look for the signs and we look for the progress, you're going to be able to bring those outcomes into your life a little bit faster. But you cannot manifest without intentional action.
No, and I think that's where it becomes funny. There's this guy that shows up on my Instagram feed every now and then, and he walks around going like this. I'm manifesting $1 million, so I quit my job. And I think it's pretty funny, but that's how people view it because if you remove intentional action, effort, and personal responsibility from it, then yeah, manifestation's pretty goofy.
Yeah.
It's like heavy intentional wishing.
Yeah.
That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about reframing the brain in order for the body to follow through on.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah. And also your emotions. You're aligning your thoughts, your emotions, and your actions into the outcomes that you want to create for yourself. You can't manifest without all three of those things.
Yeah. So, end of the day, manifestation.
Hot. If you do it right.
I'm Chris.
And I'm Kiley.
Welcome to the 1%, where small shifts create big wins.
We're redefining resilience for high performers, 1% at a time, so you can keep advancing, no matter what. What are we talking about today?
We are going to talk about the scientific method in regards to building habits.
My 8th grade science teacher would be stoked.
I was really excited about this one, and the more I dug into the actual scientific method, the more excited I became. So, the less notes I took as well. So, this is going to be pretty fun.
I'm excited.
Yeah.
Well, we always say, and the reason why we're doing this podcast, right? So to give you the why behind it, we always talk about habit development as being a science experiment. And so I think it's helpful for us to review like what the heck is a science experiment in the first place, right? Which is powered by the scientific method.
Mm-hmm.
So this is an opportunity for us to give some framework behind how we can look at habit development objectively, because I think there's a lot of emotion involved in habit development that makes it very difficult to stick with new habits or to start a new habit when you realize like, oh shoot, I need to change what I'm doing in some form or fashion. Mm-hmm. Well, this is the process by which you can do that.
Well, what's funny is I hear a lot of people when we talk about creating habits or changing old habits or being intentional with our time, I'll do that my way. I'll do that the way I feel like I need to do it. It's like, well, that's fantastic and all, but like we literally have a method for pretty much everything. It's 2025. There's a lot of data out there. There's ways to operate in specific patterns that make it easier for you to arrive at your outcome. Mm-hmm. So I think the scientific method has just kind of gotten lost. I know for me that if you ask me what the scientific method is, I would assume the word hypothesis would be in there in conclusion or a question. But like as far as the method goes, I didn't know it verbatim.
Yeah.
I tend to operate like this, so I don't make statements without having data behind it, not only clinical data, but observational data. Mm-hmm. So what happens in the gym, what happens during movements, what happens with the body, what happens with coaching clients. I have to have enough data to where I feel comfortable before I start making decisions or telling people things. Mm-hmm. And I think a lot of us do that, but this framework gives us a better guide to do it quicker. Because that's the whole concept here.
Right.
Is if we're going to be high performers, if we already are high performers, how do we become better? We become more efficient at these processes. Yeah. We become faster, more fluid, and just flat out quicker at making decisions. Mm-hmm. Fail faster, succeed faster.
Yeah.
So do you want to walk through the scientific method? Or do you want me to?
You got the notes in front of you. I think you're the teacher on this one.
All right.
Okay, so what are the different components?
So there are 6 components to the scientific method. So what we're going to do is we're going to go through all of 6 of them, and then because words are so important, we have to understand what the words mean. Because if I say the word observation, the definition for that is very different than what a lot of people will associate with their version of. So let's walk through all 6 real quick.
I wish I had my middle school textbooks right now.
All right. I wish you did too. I'd love to compare them.
I know. And I remember the font being so big.
Oh, yeah.
No, not anymore. When you get into adult textbooks, it's like size 8 font and just gobs of pages. I miss those middle school learning days.
Yeah. Dr. Seuss books are the shit.
I didn't learn Dr. Seuss in middle school. That was more like elementary. Come on now.
Fox and Socks is one of the best books ever written.
What? I've never even heard of that one.
It's the best. It's
Was
like a
that
rap
Dr.
song.
Seuss?
Yeah, it's like a rap song. It's awesome. It's my favorite. Tweedle Beetle Battle. Oh, yeah. it's awesome. I'll read it one day on the podcast. All right.
Can't wait for that.
Scientific method.
Okay, hit me. What's the first one?
Observation, then question, then hypothesis, experiment, analysis, and conclusion.
Okay.
All right. So observation, question, hypothesis, experiment, analysis, conclusion.
Okay. What is
That's how we work through the total method to come out at the end with a conclusion.
Okay. So what's an observation?
The act or process of observing something or someone carefully in order to gain information. So here's why I think this is very, very important. It is not in order to reinforce a previous thought. It's not to align with something. It's in order to gain information. That is it.
Yeah, I think what you're talking about is confirmation bias, which
Exactly.
is you going in with a belief and looking to confirm that your belief is correct.
Exactly. So when we observe things, if we're going to be a conscious observer of our environment, of people around us, in order to make a decision, i.e., we're dissecting a person, whether or not we should have them in our lives or in any capacity, when we're observing them, we're trying to just glean knowledge. Mm-hmm. How much information are you giving me? And I'm trying to figure out where it's coming from.
Okay.
Right? So then we question a sentence worded or expressed so as to elicit information. You're just gleaning more information. I love how this is set up because observation and question come before hypothesis.
Okay, so let's bring an example into this. So let's say I eat a pasta dinner and have some garlic bread with it, and then I have a tummy ache. Mm-hmm. Okay, so my observation would be I ate a carb-heavy meal and now have a tummy ache. Right?
Yeah.
Okay. So then the question could be, does gluten upset my stomach?
Yeah.
Okay. So then the hypothesis would be my body is reactive in a negative way to gluten.
Because a hypothesis is a supposition or proposed explanation made on the basis of limited evidence as a starting point for further investigation.
Yeah. So I think that works, right? It's the
Well,
correct application.
Yeah.
Okay. So then what would we do then? What's the next step?
Experiment.
So I would then need to eat like a week of pasta and bread.
So here's the way I would break that down. So observation would be, I ate pasta with garlic bread. The question, and had a stomach ache. So observation is I ate this meal and got a stomach ache. The question is, if we're going to ask what I think would be the correct question, is what is inside the food that I ate?
Okay.
All right, let's break that down into the items that are involved or a part of the consumption process.
Okay.
Okay, then you have to ask yourself one more question. What was the physical activity after and right before?
Yeah, sure.
Because we have to have enough data that we can make logical decisions.
Okay.
So if I eat a bunch of pasta and I go sprint, yeah, your stomach's going to hurt. It has nothing to do with the food, has everything to do with the outcome. Physical activity right after.
Okay.
All right. So that gives us some framework of most of the variables we can control that are in the immediate area.
Okay.
Then the hypothesis is I am either allergic to or have a negative response from these items, one of these items.
Okay.
So then the experiment could be, here are the items that are based on my genetic makeup. Mm-hmm. I have a predisposition to have a issue with, and then we can remove those and run an experiment and slowly add them back in one at a time.
Okay.
If you want to be really granular with it.
Okay.
So what I would say as an experiment is basically, holistically speaking, white people tend to have a problem. Eastern European people tend to have a problem with gluten.
Okay.
Okay. So is gluten in this meal? Yes. High processed foods are in this meal. Yes. Okay. So I'm going to remove the two variables that I know without a doubt cause problems to this section of people I belong to, right? Easiest bridges created. And then if you remove the gluten and high processed foods, go back and eat, say, homemade pasta, homemade bread with garlic, and you don't have a stomach issue, we can remove gluten as a problem and apply it to processed foods.
Okay.
So then we have easiest bridges formed.
Yeah.
And then easiest bridges burned.
Okay.
Right? So simple processes. So after you get through observation, to question, to hypothesis, to experiment, you come to analysis. Detailed examination of the elements or structures of something. So then that's what we're doing when we're saying, what are the easiest bridges I need to burn? You know, what can I get rid of that clearly is not a part of this
process of elimination.
Exactly.
We can isolate the variables.
Yes. And then you come to conclusion. Conclusion is fascinating. It's the end or finish of an event or process. End or finish of. So that means you have dissected all the possible variables. So this is where I think scientific method gets really muddy whenever we apply this to anything other than what we want it to be. If you have not experimented or created hypotheses or questioned or observed all variables, you can't make a conclusive statement. You just can't. And the interesting thing about science is literally just the observation of current reality and hypotheses. It's the scientific method to life. There's no such thing as hard and fast truths inside of science. Science creates them, then they leave science and become facts. They're no longer science, they're facts. So science is just observation. So it gets muddy, though, because we get a confirmation bias, and all of a sudden we skip all the steps and we go to conclusion.
Yeah. Well, I think even the example that you bring up, like, I feel like there was a huge wave. I mean, even for a hot minute, we went gluten-free because we didn't realize, like, what the actual source of the problem was.
Yeah.
Gluten doesn't upset me. It's the processed gluten that have refined sugars or enriched and bleached flour that are not natural ingredients.
Well, I mean, if you look at the average American diet, we eat credit cards worth of plastic a week, and everything has sugar, everything. So the reason why that's a problem is sugar's direct injected glucose. There's no process decay of power in the process. Carbs take 2 to 3% of the enzyme to create glucose or energy. Proteins 20 to 35%. Cost of the enzyme to create energy. So 20 to 35% of it is used up in the creation of the energy. Sugar has none. So we're just constantly feeding ourselves instant direct inject energy, and we're blaming other foods for that problem. It's like eating a cheeseburger and saying, well, meat's causing heart disease, but we have 18 to 25 grams of added sugar per bun, plus fries or potato chips and ketchup and mustard and cheese,
fried in vegetable oil,
and all these other
or
things.
Seed oil.
Yeah, that are covered in sugar, direct inject energy, and we're wondering why we have problems. It's like we haven't even asked the right question. All we've done is, with confirmation bias, associated an outcome to something we think might have it, and it could with some people. But that's not the actual, you're not even asking the right question. You're associating a incorrect question with a different outcome. and then saying, well, that's true.
Yeah.
I've made a conclusion.
Yeah.
So I think it's really important to understand this method because, like we have written on the wall in the back, nobody's going to save you but you, or nobody's coming to save you but you. So you have to do this. In order to live the life that is going to be peak performance or allow you to achieve peak performance, you have to shelter yourself and guide yourself. You have to apply the scientific method.
Well, and sometimes I will, especially when you think about time management, this is a huge one because there are so many frameworks out there for how you should spend your time. You know, one method is developed by, you know, this book over here. Another one, Free to Focus. I read that book. It's another form of time management. And then you have other tactics that you can deploy when I think very few people actually say, hey, what could I have observed about my own behavior? So when I get into like a good flow in my workday, what are the circumstances around it? Is it morning time? Is it afternoon time? Is it after I have my cup of coffee? Is it right before I have my cup of coffee? Is it after I have a morning meeting with somebody and have a good conversation? I come back really energized, ready to focus. Is it when I'm by myself? Is it when I listen to classical music? I mean, there's so many different variables, right, that one individual may respond to completely differently than another individual. That's why I think time management systems could be great suggestions and could work for some, but I think there's a lot of people out there who are just hardwired differently or have different preferences. You know, I might get energy at a coffee shop with 25 people around me moving around and I can just dial in, but the next person would be totally distracted in the same environment. So when you think about deploying the scientific method with something like your habits for time management, I always look at what are my observations of how I've been productive and unproductive so far? So if I notice that I'm most unproductive when I sleep poorly, that would tell me, hey, sleep is probably really important for productivity the next day. I'm really not focused when I'm sleep deprived.
Well, it takes the onus and responsibility of outcomes and puts it all on you. Because you get the opportunity to control your environment to a really heavy extent. Yeah. But it only comes through, one, just time. Like if you're 22 years old and you're listening to this podcast and you're like, oh, I'm going to figure it all out. I've got it now. Good luck, bud. You just don't have enough time. It took me till I was in my 30s to figure out where I was actually very productive.
Yeah.
Because one, I was just following other people's rules. I was figuring out what worked for me and what didn't work for me. You know, I don't do real well with any music with words if I'm trying to focus. I do fantastic with classical music and fantastic with brown noise. Do I sleep well with brown noise? Absolutely not. I sleep fucking great with pink noise. But it took years of just diagnosing things.
Yep.
What works? What doesn't work? What's the experiment? What's the outcome?
Yeah.
What's the hypothesis? And through all of those, what conclusion can I make?
Well, and sleep is another great one to apply this to because, I mean, like you said, we were listening to brown noise, then we listened to ocean waves, and then we listened to pink noise. And pink noise was the one that, I mean, I can sleep through anything. But again, there's so much variability from person to person. That's why you can't just adopt some sort of cookie cutter framework and expect yourself to adapt to it. Some people can. Some people can get a framework and then they implement right away and it's highly successful. Most people, though, that's not going to work.
Well, most of the people that I know that can apply that are okay with not explaining how they've morphed it into their own. They just do it.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, okay, I don't need that. I'll just move on.
Yeah.
So they're more focused on outcome and they'll apply what they need to apply and run through it. That's why I really struggle with people that are like, well, I read this book. and I'm just going to apply everything from this book. Like, well, you're not that person, first off. Like,
Yeah.
I absolutely love Dr. Joe Dispenza. I can't do everything he does in that book.
Yeah.
And I literally do this for a living.
Yeah.
And I can't.
Yeah.
Because he just operates on a different brainwave. He literally processes information differently than I do. Therefore, we see things differently, which is awesome and super beneficial. But it means I have to translate that information, or understand my brain translates that information differently.
Mm-hmm.
So the application will look different.
Yep.
Which is fine and fair in the way the whole world works. But yeah, I think scientific method as applies to the habit creation is pretty much the only way you can build great habits and understand why they exist.
Yeah. Well, and it's really important for our brain. We don't just arbitrarily buy into things. Just because Chris said you should eat, X amount of protein a day doesn't mean your body is going to immediately, or your brain is going to immediately buy into that thing. Now, if Chris breaks down the importance of protein in daily consumption and gives you a way to calculate how much exactly you need and tells you, the science behind it, your body is going to get on board. It makes sense now. It's logical for your brain. So the other thing we have to think about here is understanding the why behind things, because we don't do things arbitrarily. We do things because there's a purpose and there's some sort of benefit to us. So if you're listening to this and you're like, oh, that's great, but I don't need to work on this. No, everybody, if you want to get better at something, this is your path. This is the path to freedom to failure, because in the scientific method, you are going to have wrong hypotheses all the time. Yeah. What you think, like I thought for a period of time, we needed to be gluten-free, and we tried it out, and honestly, I felt a little bit better, but it was because we were eating less processed food. And then we started finding gluten-free bread, and we were eating this gluten-free bread, but I wasn't feeling great after we ate gluten-free bread. It felt kind of the same as normal bread. And I realized it's because we're eating processed bread. And then we switched to a bread that has 4 ingredients, and they're all real ingredients. And this is the only bread I've eaten that I don't feel anything afterwards.
Yeah. Other than fuel.
Yeah. I feel full, and fed and have energy.
So here's an interesting concept to think about. The human body doesn't do anything arbitrarily. It does things based on the logic for better outcomes for itself. And because the human system is a defense mechanism, it will choose laziness and lack of responsibility as an outcome on purpose. It does not want to get in front of responsibility because it opens the door for anxiety.
Yeah.
It wants to avoid that because we don't really necessarily understand what's going on if we start performing really, really high. What happens if you get that promotion? We can literally self-sabotage ourselves by creating or by utilizing old habits that block us from getting to the next level. We've created those as defense mechanisms. So it's extremely important to understand what we do, how we communicate with ourselves, what our processes currently are, because then we can self-diagnose, one, how we're getting in our own way, which tends to be about 99% of the problem. And we can understand what habits we have that are fantastic and we need to cultivate, lean into a little bit harder. But the habits go both ways. And the avoidance is a real thing. The human system is a defense mechanism. Avoid potential pain and injury at all costs. At all costs. Part of the reason I hit myself in the head before I lift something heavy 4 or 5 times, you can watch any videos, I whack myself real hard a couple times.
Ridiculous.
Is I'm telling myself that pain is okay and that I need to stop with the potential pain and injury thought process. I don't think I've ever approached a bar with something really heavy on it, especially for squats, and not thought about a knee injury. It just flickers through my head. Oh my God, what happens if I blow my knee out? Oh my
Which
God.
you've already done.
Well, what happens, right? Like that gets in the way, and then all of a sudden failure starts to creep in, and then your body goes, you know what? It's okay if that happens.
Well, and
you
then
don't have to do this. You can do something else.
Right. And instead of visualizing a successful squat, you're now focused on your knee.
Exactly. Where my intention goes, my energy flows.
Yep.
And if I just say, listen, man, shut the hell up, do what I'm telling you to do. I want progress and growth more than the fear of potential pain and injury. And I succeed the lift about 90% of the time, I'm okay.
Yeah.
But that's with everything. That's with the promotions. That's with relationships. That's with all of it.
Well, and I think it took me a while to realize that habits, really successful habits and a strong level of discipline in my life actually makes me allowed to be lazier.
Yeah.
Like I can relax on a Saturday or on a Sunday because I'm so disciplined every single day. Because I've meal prepped for a 3-hour period on a Saturday or Sunday, I can spend the rest of the weekend enjoying myself. Oh, and I don't have to cook the whole rest of the week.
Yeah.
I spend 3 hours on one day.
Yeah.
So I don't have to cook for an hour every single night.
You traded 3 hours for 7 to 8 hours.
Huh?
Yeah. I think that's pretty solid ass exchange.
Exactly. And that's, I think,
just by being a little bit more disciplined.
yeah. And that's the thing that I don't think people associate right away. You have to actually like slow the fuck down and realize that your current habits of not planning and not being proactive are actually creating stress and anxiety and slowing you down and making more work for you. It's funny because I'm driving downtown every day for work with my new role. And most nights before work, I will pick out my outfit for the next day. Because if I don't, I'm probably going to spend twice as much time the next morning trying to piece together an outfit. Oh, and by the way, the one shirt, of course, that I pick out is still wrinkly and needs to be steamed. So if I can get ahead of that the night before and pick out my outfit, and then if I notice that my shirt is wrinkly and I need to steam it, I can do that the night before, and I'm not rushed. I'm not stressed. I'm not trying to get out the door on time. Mm-hmm. And the next morning, it's smooth sailing, and I can just be lazy the next morning. And I get extra time on the couch to relax, drink my coffee, read my book.
Yeah.
Being disciplined truly is giving yourself more freedom.
Yeah, I was about to say discipline's freedom, man.
It really is. And until you realize that association, you're going to continue to make your life harder, and you're going to have to put more effort into everything.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Because you're picking up the pieces all the time. You're not running.
Yeah, and just think about it. Like, you don't meal prep. So then what happens when you have, a busy day at work? You get home at like 5:30. You got a kid's game at 6 o'clock. You get home from the kid's game at 7:30, and it's like, well, shoot, we have no food prepared. Nothing is cooked. Nothing is ready to eat. I'm just going to throw a pizza in the oven. Okay, so now you are eating crappier food.
Yep.
You're up later.
Yep.
Had you just prepped meals in advance, you would have had food ready to eat by 7:40.
Yep.
Versus now you're eating dinner at 8:30. Everybody is going to sleep worse because you ate too close to dinner, right? There's a ripple effect. Every choice is a trade-off. Every choice has a trade-off. So I'm choosing to spend my 3 hours on a Saturday or a Sunday preparing my food in advance so that I am trading off more time later on down the week.
So the question I have is, most of the people that I talk to when we have this same conversation built around habits is, well, I feel like I'm wasting time when I do this, or I don't worry about that. I do this to save time. I don't make my bed in the morning because I feel like it's a waste of time. I'm saving time for something else. Or because by saying it's a waste of time, it means that time is not spent wisely. So therefore, I'm spending it wisely somewhere else. My question is, 1, what are you saving time for? And 2, what's a wiser use of your time? What's this wise decision that you're not wanting to utilize that time for with making the bed and meal prepping and taking care of yourself, like going to the gym? What's the wisest use of the allotted time then? Because if it's not taking care of yourself and it's not planning and it's not being structured and it's not being disciplined, then what the fuck is it? Because if it's the opposite or even slightly different than those things, you're never going to convince me that being less disciplined is a greater option than being disciplined.
Yeah.
That it will apply more freedom in the future. Or that you're saving time for some big, giant, almighty thing that's just like banking time for. We all have 168 hours, and we all have the repetitive 24 hours. So if we're not saving it for anything. It doesn't exist. You can't carry an hour from Tuesday and apply it to Friday. But you can work really hard for an extra or slightly harder for 3 hours and free up the time that you will have in the future.
Yeah.
That's the difference. We can't bank it and carry it, but we can free it in the future. We can not have to apply it to something because we've done it beforehand, or we planned for it. I just am always confused about that statement. It's a waste of time.
No, I think more often than not, I hear people say, oh, I don't have time to meal prep. No, that's just a lie you're telling yourself, because I have literally just mathed out how much time you're going to spend otherwise, right? If you just spend 1 hour making dinner every single night,
that's 7 hours a week.
That's 7 hours a week. I'm literally, and trust me, when you meal prep for the first time, it's not going to be 3 hours. I can meal prep for the entire week in 2 to 3 hours because I have it down to a science. We eat the same food every day. I know it doesn't sound sexy or glamorous, but it makes everything so much easier. And if variety is most important to me, I can spend 6 hours meal prepping and incorporate more variety into my meals. But I don't need variety at this point. I need efficiency because I have bigger priorities. I have things that are more important. I want to be able to plan fun things for the weekend. I want to be able to say yes to, a family trip on the weekend, and knowing that I've prepared and I have a plan for how I'm going to meal prep quickly when I get back is what enables me to do these things.
Well, you'd have to lie to me or yourself and say that being a healthier, well-fed, well-fueled version of yourself is less beneficial than the time spent. I don't think so, man.
No.
I just don't think so.
No.
There's no way you're going to tell me that, fueling myself correctly is just kind of a big, giant waste of time because I don't want to start out. It might take me 6 hours on a Sunday or a Saturday, and I don't feel like doing that. Okay, well, do you feel like feeling like shit every week? Do you feel like wasting time with the anxiety of not knowing what to eat and the little bit of anger and depression that comes with eating McDonald's for the 5th time that week, or frustration with yourself because you don't like the way you look? You're in control of all those variables, pal. It's just whether or not you want to apply the effort in order to change or control. I've worked 50 plus hours in manual labor jobs and still found ways to meal prep. Mm-hmm. In fact, I was better at those jobs because I meal prepped, because I just kept my food with me all the time. It's a joke, but I used to carry a fanny pack with me full of food because I knew I needed it. Whether or not it was glamorous and whether or not it made me look cool, I don't give a fuck, because at the end of the day, do you know what makes me feel awesome? Feeling awesome.
Yeah.
Right? Performing well, being fueled, reaching goals, being able to fulfill my vision. You're in control of this. Mm-hmm. I had a client the other day say, hydration was an issue. Okay, well, what are you going to do tomorrow to prevent hydration from being an issue? Well, I guess I can carry a water bottle around like a freak. Okay, first off, yes, that's the answer to that.
Right.
The simple answer, carry a water bottle around, a big gallon jug. And if people make fun of you for that, is the outcome desired worth a little bit of being chastised by people that aren't chasing goals? Do you care about people that aren't chasing goals?
Yeah.
Like, okay, what's like going to a circus and getting made fun of by the clowns and then being offended because you're not a fucking clown?
It's so true.
Like, okay, man, cool, dude.
Yeah.
You don't want what I want.
Yeah. We have different goals.
Yeah, if carrying a water bottle around allows you to reach your goals. Carry a motherfucking water bottle around because you're awesome and you're reaching your goals.
Yeah.
Go for it.
It's funny because I have a lot of people that I'll talk to about not drinking alcohol, and that's another thing that people are worried about. Like, oh, well, what if you're at a networking event or you have a business meeting or something and, people are drinking? Okay.
Yeah.
Nothing is different. I still drink a Diet Coke or sparkling water.
Yeah. How many times have people said, oh my God, you're just drinking sparkling water?
It's been like 2 or 3 times, and it's by bartenders or servers.
Yeah. People that want you to spend money.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Which is totally, totally reasonable. Again, actions based on outcome desired.
Yeah.
They're there to make money. You're impeding the money-making process by ordering something that's free.
Yeah.
Or very cheap that doesn't make you loosen your pocketbook because you're not thinking correctly.
Yeah.
So outcome desired is the goal here.
Yeah, and I always think in my head, like, do I give a shit if somebody is judging me because I'm making a healthier decision? No, I don't care. It doesn't bother me one bit. Not one bit. Judge me all you want. I don't care what people think.
Well, here's the really cool fact of life. People are watching you constantly because people are fantastic pattern followers, and we want to constantly have a framework around us that allows us to feel like we're part of the group. By doing something different, you stand out on purpose. Just innately. I don't drink. We don't drink. We go to a bar, still hang out with our friends.
Yeah.
We are different than the group, which causes a ripple in the collective. Mm-hmm. Just understand, in order to do anything great, look at anybody that's ever achieved anything spectacular. All of them were different than the group. Nobody spectacular nobody normal, quote unquote, creates spectacular outcomes.
It's true.
Like, well, that's fine with me. That just means there's about 100% chance of being an outlier creating something awesome.
There's a reason why the CEOs and founders of massive companies have been studied and their patterns and their habits have been examined and research has been collected. I mean, they all get copious amounts of sleep. They all sleep well. They all prioritize their health and fitness. They all prioritize time management. They all prioritize reading and learning and are constantly seeking new information. I mean, they all have these things in common. And if you want to like put a blanket statement over what all of those things are, they're high performance habits.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah, but you can't have high performance wants with mediocre performance habits. You can't have high performance outcomes with mediocre performance habits. It's not possible. You can't be part of the collective and be a part of the C-suite.
Yeah.
That's just not how it works. Leaders are leaders, man. Leaders are leaders because they're in the front. They're not following. That's profound to me. I've always been so confused when people will show up and say, or I'll listen to them, and the basis behind their statements are, I just want to be normal. Okay, well, just don't do anything and you've achieved it.
Yeah.
Like you literally have to just sit and exist and boom, you're normal. You've achieved it. Normal is absence of action for moving forward. Cool, dude. You apply any pressure to that gas pedal at all, you're immediately going to piss somebody off. Awesome.
Yeah.
That's okay. That has nothing to do with you.
Well, I think this was a great conversation, and to go back to our scientific method.
Yes.
Just remember.
Yeah. And that's how you take old information and run it back through this scientific method based on new circumstances and new data. And you're constantly learning and developing. Yep. You're constantly changing that viewpoint. This is the only way to grow.
Enjoy the experiment.
Boom, baby. Big results come from small, intentional actions.
And that's why we're taking on the 1% challenge, a simple, actionable step to get just a little bit better every day.
No excuses, just progress. Let's do it.
So our 1% challenge for you today.
1% challenge.
Apply the scientific method to some habit in your life that you would like to improve.
Yes, and please tell us about it.
Yeah, we'd love to hear.
I want to know. I want to know what you're doing. I don't care if it's fitness related, mindset related, relationship related, just anything that you're applying this scientific method to. And I want to hear about like the steps you went through.
Yeah.
I just want knowledge from you.
Yeah.
That's a wrap for today's episode of the 1%. If you're ready to take your resilience to the next level,
head to odysseyresilience.org to dive deeper into our work, access free resources, and learn how we help high performers redefine resilience.
Thanks for listening. Now go get 1% better.